In the cold, dark silence beyond Pluto, a lonely satellite named Vigiline floated in deep space. It had been spinning quietly for years, forgotten by most on Earth. Its purpose was simple: to listen, to catch any strange signals, whispers from the stars, or signs of life outside the known zones. Most days it heard nothing, just the empty hum of the universe. But one day something changed. At exactly 3:27 Earth Universal Time, Vigiline picked up a faint sound. At first, it was just static hissing, broken, strange. But then, a voice broke through. It was weak, trembling, alien. "Please, help us, anyone, before they return." The voice faded, swallowed again by static, but then came back clearer this time. "We are Virelia. We are the last. They took everything. We hide now. Please, don't let them find us again. Don't let the silence win." Back on Earth. In the Orbital Communications Center, a young officer named Lena Rez sat up straight in her chair. Her screen flashed red with an emergency ping from Vigiline. Most would have ignored it. The outer satellites picked up strange noises all the time. But Lena had been raised on stories tales of lost colonies, mysterious wars, and dark threats. Beyond the stars, she clicked the signal open and listened. Then she played it again and again. The voice chilled her. It didn't sound fake. It sounded desperate, real. She reported it to her superior, Commander Brandt, who laughed it off. Old tech catching space garbage. Could be a dying AI somewhere, or a trap. "Leave it be," Officer Red. But Lena couldn't. Something deep in her gut told her this was different. The signal was old, distorted, but it came from a planet listed as destroyed more than 60 years ago. A Viria, green, peaceful world once famous for its music, its light, and its deep alliance with Earth. It was said to have been erased during the Collapse Wars, wiped clean by an enemy never named. A mystery never solved, but if this call was real, then Virelia was still alive. Or at least, someone there was. Disobeying direct orders, Lena saved the signal to her private drive and began decoding it. She cleaned the audio, enhanced the background noise, and found strange patterns, hidden pulses under the voice. It was a code. An ancient code used by early Earth-lined colonies. Hidden inside the message were coordinates, deep into the uncharted zones, and a warning: the silence is awake. That phrase sent chills down her spine. Silence. She had seen that word before in classified documents during her training. It wasn't a thing. It wasn't a species. It was a force. Something dark, unnamed, and long buried. Old Deathworlder history. And Earth had tried to forget it. She had no choice. Lena uploaded the full signal and coordinates to the Grim Vector, an Earth Defense Command warship in orbit. This ship wasn't just any ship. It carried a full squad of elite soldiers known as Deathworlders, trained for survival, destruction, and impossible missions. Feared across the galaxy, these warriors had made Earth a name no one dared whisper. Earth was known as the Death World because only the strongest could survive their Rit's gravity. Animals, viruses, and storms made it the deadliest world in the galaxy. The people born from it were no less dangerous. The Grim Vector was preparing to leave for training near Mars, but after receiving Lena's signal, its Captain Commander Juno Vos. She was old school. She had fought in real wars, not simulations. And she remembered Virelia. She had been there during the Collapse Wars. She had seen the sky turn black and the stars disappear. She had watched Virelia burn, and no one ever explained why. Juno read Lena's message and stared at the signal for hours. Finally, she turned to her crew and said, "Prepare for silent jump. We're going to see if ghosts can call for help." And just like that, the Grim Vector changed. Of course, no broadcast. No alert to command. They left Earth space in secret and jumped across systems toward the coordinates hidden in the message. As they traveled, strange things began to happen. The lights on the ship flickered without reason. Crew reported hearing soft whispers in the dark halls. Soldier claimed he saw shadows moving against the walls, shadows that didn't belong to anyone. One engineer tried to shut down the signal, saying it was calling something back. Hours later, he vanished from the ship without a trace. Security footage showed him walking calmly into the airlock. No panic, no fear, just silence. Juno called Lena directly. "What did you send us?" Lena answered honestly. "Don't. No. But I think it's real." By the time the Grim Vector reached the edge of Varelia's system, their long-range sensors picked up the impossible the planet was there. Blue oceans, golden fields, and glowing cities. It was beautiful, peaceful, untouched. But there were no signals, no life forms on the surface, no heat signatures from the cities. Just silence. Pure, unnatural silence. Not even wind, no animal movement. The kind of silence that pressed against your bones and made your heartbeat feel too loud. The crew descended carefully. Juno, Lena, and a team of soldiers touched down. Outside what used to be the capital, the city looked frozen in timetables set for meals, fountains still running, lights still blinking, but not a single person, not a single sound, just shadows. Then Lena noticed something on the wall of a tall building. It was a symbol, 3 dark circles inside a triangle. She had seen it once, in a restricted file titled Operation Black Echo, Failed Containment. She touched the wall and suddenly heard the voice again. Not through a speaker, not through any radio. The voice whispered inside her head. "They are listening. You brought the noise. Now they know where you are." Lena staggered back, dizzy. Around her, the others were silent, staring into space. One soldier dropped his weapon and began mumbling numbers. Another started crying, whispering names that no one recognized. The silence around them wasn't empty. It was alive. And it was watching. Then, without warning, the ship above them, the Grim Vector, sent a distress call. Multiple crew missing. No entry. No sign of attack. "They're just gone," Juno ordered immediate retreat. But the moment they turned back toward the ship, the skies above began to darken. A low hum filled the air, not sound, but pressure. It felt like the world itself was breathing in, waiting to scream. Lena looked up, her heart pounding, and then she saw it. High above, floating in the sky like black stars' shapes, dark, smooth, formless, not ships, not creatures, not machines, just holes in the sky. Like something had torn through the fabric of reality and never closed it. She whispered one word, the silence, and it hurt her. The shuttle shook as it climbed through the thick, dark air above Varelia. Lena gripped her seat tightly, staring out the small side window. The city below was fading into fog, its tall golden towers now ghost-like shadows. The ground crew had barely made it back. 2 soldiers were missing, gone without sound, without struggle. Their names still echoed in Lena's mind. But something told her they were not just missing. They had been erased. Inside the command deck of the Grim Vector, Commander Juno Voss watched her crew with sharp, tired eyes. Her people were trained. For war-strong, disciplined, fearless. But now many were quiet, too quiet. Soldiers who had once laughed in the face of plasma storms were whispering among themselves, avoiding eye contact. One had broken down crying in the mess hall. Another hadn't spoken a word since leaving the planet's surface. Juno turned to Lena. "Whatever this thing is, got into their heads." Her voice was calm, but her knuckles were white on the edge of the console. "You're the one who brought us here, Officer Red. Start explaining." Lena nodded slowly, swallowing the dryness in her throat. The signal was hidden in an old Earth code, a code only used during the Collapse Wars. It was sent from the capital of Varelia. From a building marked with an old project symbol, Juno's eyes narrowed. "Black Echo," yes, Lena whispered. "The files said it failed, that we stopped using it. But this isn't a failed weapon. This feels like a warning, or worse, a trap." Suddenly, the ship's alarms blared. Lights turned red as automated defense systems activated. On the main screen, dozens of small floating objects appeared, drifting slowly toward the ship from above the planet. They didn't look like ships. No engines, no signals. Just holes. Like chunks of the sky had broken off and were now falling gently, like leaves on fire. Lieutenant Keem, a tech officer, zoomed the camera in. They're not made of metal. They're not reflecting light. They're not even fully. Like they're skipping reality. Then a voice came over the ship's intercom, slow, robotic, confused. Warning, internal loss detected. Crew count malfunction. Deck 4 missing. Juno stared at the screen. What does that mean? Lena said what no one else wanted to. It means part of the ship just disappeared. Juno ran to the internal cams. The feed from Deck 4 showed nothing, just flickering black static. 30 crew members had been stationed there. Now, no trace, no bodies, no blood. Just gone. The silence had followed them. Now, it was aboard the Grim Vector. Before panic could spread, Juno gave sharp orders. Seal all decks. No one moves alone. Gather the command squad. We're going. Back down to the surface? I want answers from whoever sent that signal. Lena's heart pounded. But what if it's already too late? What if we woke something that can't be stopped? Juno looked at her with steel in her eyes. Then we die trying to stop it. Yes! That's the Deathworlder way. The shuttle returned to the planet's surface with a smaller team this time only. 6 soldiers, Lena, and Juno herself. The city still looked peaceful on the outside, but the moment they stepped out, they felt it. The pressure. The silence that pushed against their ears like heavy air. No birds, no wind, no machines.
Ow.
Not even the sound of their own footsteps echoed. The only noise was the soft buzz of their breathing masks. They walked toward the tall building. Where the signal had originated, inside, everything was untouched. Computers still blinked. Holograms glowed faintly. On the far wall, the symbol 3 black circles inside a triangle glowed dimly. Lena moved closer and saw strange markings beneath it, a language she didn't understand. Suddenly a panel slid open in the wall, and from the shadows a figure stepped out. It was tall and thin, with pale green skin and deep silver eyes. An alien, a Varelian. Lena froze. She had seen pictures in old archives, but never thought she'd meet one. The figure raised its hands slowly, not in fear, but in peace. You heard our call, it said in perfect English. Too late. Still, you came. Juno aimed her weapon, but didn't fire. Who are you? My name is Thalen. I am the last of Varelia's scientists. I stayed behind to send the message. I did not think it would reach you. Lena stepped forward. We got it, but what is this? What is the silence? Thalen's eyes darkened. They were born from your world's mistake. From Earth's arrogance, he led them deeper into the building, into a hidden chamber. On the walls were recordings, videos, maps, and files stored in holographic orbs. He activated one, and an old Earth military broadcast began to play. It was from 87 years ago. A young human officer stood in front of a massive machine pulsing with light. They call it the Black Echo, a weapon of pure frequency, designed to erase enemy minds without firing a bullet. A clean war. Silent war. The video flickered. Screams echoed. Then Static Thalen turned to them. He created a sound so powerful it didn't just destroy minds, it created something. Hunger. A force that fed on memory, noise, thought. It came alive, and then it turned on its makers. Lena whispered, and Earth buried it. Thalen nodded. Your leaders locked it away, deep in uncharted space. But it grew. It reached across stars, looking for minds to devour. We were its first. Now it's awake again, and it followed your ship. Juno gritted her teeth. Why send the signal? To call us back to this cursed place. Because only Earth has the knowledge to stop it. And maybe the guilt to try. Before anyone could speak, a low vibration filled the room. Not sound, just movement. The walls pulsed. The air grew heavy. The lights flickered. Then one of the soldiers turned to shadow. His body broke into black mist and vanished. Scream, no warning, Thalen shouted. It's here. It feeds on thought. Do not think of fear. Do not speak its name. The team backed into a circle, weapons raised. Shapes moved in the darkness around them. Not bodies. Not creatures. Just empty places, holes in reality that moved with hunger. Lena looked at Thalen. Can it be stopped? The alien's voice trembled. Yes. But only if you remember what You forgot what Earth chose to erase. The black echo must be found, and this time it must not be silenced. The room cracked. The shadows closed in, and the war for the galaxy's mind had begun. The grim vector drifted above the surface of Varelia like a wounded beast. Its one-sprout hull, painted in the red and silver of Earth's Deathworlder fleet, now flickered with strange shadows places where the metal skin warped and shimmered unnaturally inside. Fear spread faster than any enemy. Decks were vanishing. Crew members were disappearing. Not a single shot fired. No blood. No signs of a fight. Just gone. In the command chamber, Commander Juno Voss stood silently at the viewport, staring at the floating darkness approaching from the edge of the planet's orbit. Her crew had seen them dozens of black, shapeless voids drifting like feathers. They weren't ships. They weren't alive in any normal sense. But their presence crushed the mind, bent time, and turned brave soldiers into whispering wrecks. It was like space itself had holes torn through it, and whatever existed inside those holes was hungry. Data core recovered from the Varelian ruins. It was old damage, but inside was something Earth had tried to bury. Project Black Echo. Thalon, the last Varelian scientist, had stayed behind on the surface to help the recovery team unlock the file. But communications with the planet had gone silent hours ago. No signals, no heat, just black static. Thalon's gone, Lena whispered. The whole outpost. It's gone. Juno didn't turn. And now it's coming for us, Lena nodded. Clutching the data core. If the Black Echo is still real, it might be our only chance. But I don't know how to use it. Juno's voice was steady. Then learn. Fast. As Lena worked to access the corrupted files, strange phenomena worsened across the ship. Walls began to stretch and breathe like lungs. Doors led to the wrong rooms. Screens blinked with unreadable symbols. One engineer screamed and clawed at her ears before vanishing completely mid-sentence, mid-movement. Only her clothes remained. The silence was inside, and it wasn't just feeding on bodies. Out. It was feeding on thoughts. A voice began to whisper. In the heads of the crew, not through speakers, not through any comms, but directly into the mind. It said no words, only emotions. Fear, regret, guilt, every memory sharpened into a blade, cutting into the brain. Officers began turning on each. Some ran, trying to escape. Others fell into catatonic silence, eyes wide, unmoving. Juno locked down the ship. No more movement between decks. All personnel to core level. Status. Lena, hands trembling, finally broke into the main file. Burst of sound nearly deafened her as a hidden file opened. An old Earth's military recording. Project Black Echo, final log, an older voice. Cold and tired, began to speak. This is General Rame, Earth High Command. The Black Echo was never a weapon, not truly. It was an accident. A pulse experiment using layered frequencies designed to suppress thought in enemy forces. But we went too far. We breached something we didn't understand. A layer between sound and void. We created a hole, and something stepped through. Juno leaned closer, listening. The silence wasn't alive. It was absence, perfect absence, but it learned from us. It saw minds as doors and sound as the key. The louder the signal, the faster it spread. So we buried it, burned the worlds it touched, erased records. Varelia was the last. We swore never to speak of it again, but if this file is open, then it means someone brought the sound back. The recording ended. Lena looked at Juno. It's not just a creature. It's a reaction. A broken space in reality that's growing. Pointed to the data core. Does it say how to stop it? Lena's voice cracked. Yes, but it's dangerous. The Black Echo pulse must be fired again. A sound so loud, so pure, it can seal the breach. But it has to be fired at the source, wherever the silence is strongest. Juno took a deep breath. Then we bring the fight to it. She activated the fleet's AI, still partially functioning. Give me a scan of all energy distortions. Near the ship, The AI replied, its voice cracked with static. Primary distortion detected. Inside Earth's moon. Everyone fell silent. Lena stared. Earth's moon. The AI repeated. Pattern matches black echo origin. Sealed chamber. Beneath Luna's surface, now open. Lena's hands trembled. It was never just in Varelia. The first pulse was tested on Earth's moon. That's where it started. Juno turned to the crew. Set course. We're going home. The grim vector began its jump. Toward Earth. But the closer they got to their own system, the more reality bent. The voids followed. Floating holes in space blinked into orbit around the ship. Lights flickered. Crew numbers dropped again. 5 gone in 1 minute. And then it began speaking, not in voice, not in sound, but in memory. Each crew member started hearing their past, their worst moments. A lost friend, a dying parent, child. Crying, it used memory like a weapon, forcing people to relive pain until their minds broke. Lena dropped to her knees. She heard her sister calling from a burning building, the screams she couldn't save her from. But something inside her fought back. She focused on one thought. Earth can't fall. It's not like this. She activated the black echo primer from the data core. A low hum began in the ship's center, barely noticeable, but growing. Juno gave the order. Prepare for lunar descent. We land on the dark side. And we end this. As Earth grew large on the main screen, its blue oceans and bright continents glowing in the dark, something else came into view. The moon, and wrapped around it. A black cloud, storm of absence. The silence was already there, waiting, growing, and Earth had no idea what was coming. The final war had begun, and this time, the enemy was nothing itself. The grim vector dropped from light speed with a jolt, just outside Earth's moon. But the sight that greeted the crew was not the quiet, pale sphere they knew. The moon's surface looked cracked, bleeding streams of black mist. A wide scar-like, a claw mark across its face stretched from crater to crater, pulsing with shadows. Wrapped around the moon like a silent hurricane was the thing they feared most. The silence, it wasn't just around the moon, it was inside it. Sensors confirmed it. A massive energy signature deep beneath the surface, buried in an old Earth military site known only in files as Echo Base 0. Officially, it never existed. But Project Black Echo had started there, and now the source had awakened. Inside the command chamber, Commander Juno Voss stood at full height, her voice sharper than ever. No signals leave this ship, no warnings to Earth. If the silence hears us call for help, it'll spread. This ends here. Lena Red stood beside her. Data core clutched tightly in her arms. The Black Echo weapon wasn't just an idea anymore. The files inside the core contained the activation code of frequency pattern, so intense it could rupture the breach and seal the silence again. But it had one cost. The frequency would destroy everything within 10 kilometers of the blast. Metal, memory. Gondot Juno read the silence on Lena's face and said, "We already lost half our crew." "We're not walking away from this, are we?" Lena replied quietly. "No, but Earth might live if we finish what it started." They launched 2 dropships. One carried Juno, Lena, and a hand-picked Deathworlder strike team. The second would remain in orbit, protected, with a technician preparing the Black Echo emitter. They had to go into Echo Base 0 manually. The weapon could only be triggered at the breach point. If they failed, there would be no second chance. As the dropship approached the moon's surface, the black mist thickened. The onboard lights dimmed without reason. The onboard AI whispered fragmented logs in broken voices. Project incomplete. Minds splintering. Sound escaped. When the ship landed, the soldiers stepped out onto Lunar Rock, but it felt wrong. Like they were standing inside a dream. No gravity, no sound. Just black dust and the towering metal doors of Echo Base 0 half sunk into stone. The base looked ancient, but the doors suddenly creaked open, as if something inside had been waiting inside. Old Earth tech flickered screens from another age, blinking blue and green. Empty chairs, broken control panels, and along the walls, names, hundreds of names, Soldiers, scientists, test subjects. Lena paused. Her grandfather's name was there. This place, she whispered. They built the first pulse here. They knew what it was doing. The deeper they went, the more the base changed. At first, it looked like any old war bunker. But then the metal turned to something else. Smooth, pulsing, dark, not built. Grown. The silence had infected the walls. The team's tech began to fail. No readings, no audio. Even their helmet. Lights flickered. They began seeing things, shapes behind walls, eyes in the dark. One soldier panicked. Something's walking behind us. Juno didn't look. It's not real. It's memory. Keep moving. But it was real. One by one, the soldiers were separated. Not physically. Their minds slipped sideways. Time bent. One man walked into a hallway and never came back out. Another started repeating words he hadn't spoken in years. Lena held Juno's hand tightly as they reached the final chamber. It was a deep cavern, lined with black crystal. At the center stood a glowing ring, the source, perfect circle, suspended in air, humming with quiet dread. The silence was pouring from it like mist, invisible but heavy. It was a tear in space, a wound in reality. Inside the ring, Lena saw herself, a version of her, screaming silently. Eyes wide, mouth open, trapped. She blinked, and it was gone. Juno planted the black echo emitter, locking it to the breaches. Frequency. The technician back on the second dropship gave them the final instructions. Once armed, you have 6 minutes before detonation. Once triggered, no signal can cancel it. It'll wipe the entire area clean. Lena knelt beside the machine, entering the code and ancient Deathworlder encryption. Not just numbers. A message. Final word to any who found it. This world ends only when we stop fighting. As Lena pressed the final button, the ring pulsed. It fought back. Wave of pressure smashed through the chamber. Juno staggered but stayed standing. Lena screamed as 1,000 memories hit her at once. Childhood, war, loss, the sound of her sister's last breath, the scream of the signal from Varelia. Everything crushed into one moment, and then it spoke. The silence. Not with voice, but with thought. You brought me. You made me. Now you must be me. It offered her something: peace, stillness, the end of pain. All she had to do was cancel the pulse, turn back, let it spread. But Lena was Deathworlder born. Her home was fire. Her people were storms. She stood tall, tears in her eyes, and shouted back, "We don't fear nothing, we fight it." The emitter roared to life. A deep hum filled the room, growing louder, stronger. Reality twisted. The ring cracked. The chamber began to collapse. Juno looked at Lena. "There's no time to run." "I know," she said. Then the silence cracked. A blinding white wave burst from the core, pure sound without sound. A scream of light that erased shadow. The ring shattered. The mist burned. The echo rolled out in all directions, crushing the base, the breach, the silence itself. And then, nothing. Total, perfect silence. But not the dark kind. The peaceful kind. In orbit, the second dropship read the blast. Its pilot whispered, "It's done." The breach was sealed, but the cost had been everything. Later on Earth, the world mourned. Quietly, news never told the full story. Only whispers passed through military halls of a Deathworlder crew that gave everything. Of a commander who led them without blinking. Of a young officer who answered a call no one else dared to hear, and deep in a vault. A new message was locked away. A new code. Black echo status. Sealed. But never silent. Because some enemies don't come with ships, they come with silence. And Earth will always remember how to fight back. Weeks had passed since the explosion on the moon. Earth had been saved, at least for now. The silence had vanished. Its breach sealed by the final activation of the Black Echo. But peace didn't return the way people expected. The stars, once distant and quiet, now felt heavier, as if the galaxy was holding its breath. The grim vector was gone. Most of its crew had vanished in the final moments. Lena Ray's name was added to Earth's Hall of Honor, along with Commander Juno Voss and her team. Statues were planned. Stories would be told. But what no one knew, not the public, not even Earth's High Command, was that Lena wasn't dead. Somehow, she had survived the blast. When the Black Echo fired, Lena had felt herself pulled apart, not physically, but through time and memory. Instead of death, she awoke in darkness, floating in a strange chamber filled with broken machinery and cold light. Her body ached, her thoughts were shattered. But she was alive, and she wasn't alone. Two figures stood nearby. One was tall and insect-like, with glowing orange eyes and steel armor fused into its skin. The other was shorter, cloaked in soft blue fabric, its face hidden by a glowing mask. Alien, both of them. But not enemies. "You are Deathworlder," the taller one said. "You survived the Black Echo." Lena tried to speak, but coughed. The air tasted like ash. "You were on the Ark of Ashes," the smaller one explained. "Drifting station built from the bones of lost worlds. You found your mind signal in the wake of the breach." Lena looked around. The place didn't feel real. The walls shimmered like water. Doors led to places she couldn't see. She could hear voices in the floor, feel memories in the air. This was no ordinary station. "I saw the silence," she whispered. It spoke in memories. The taller alien nodded. "We know. We fought it before. Many years ago. Earth was not the only world to face it. But Earth is the only one that tried to erase it instead of unite to stop it." Lena sat up slowly. "Who are you?" "We are what remains of the old alliance," the blue-cloaked one said. "The Varn, the Droken, the Nurith. Once, long ago, our people stood beside Earth in the first Breach War. We helped your ancestors build the first Black Echo. But when the war ended, Earth turned inward, forgot its allies, left us to burn." Lena looked at them, her heart heavy. She'd read history. Earth had sealed records after the collapse wars, maybe to protect people, or maybe to hide its shame. "We didn't know," she said. "We thought the silence was gone. It never left," the Droken growled. "It only slept." The station's lights flickered. Outside the window, stars glowed in strange patterns. Lena could see ruined ships drifting in ancient wrecks, with markings in dozens of forgotten languages. The Varn extended a hand. "You are here because you resisted it. You remembered. That means the fight is not over." The silence spreads through echoes, through memory and mind. There are still breaches, small ones, weak now, but growing. Lena stood, swaying slightly. "Then we stopped them. All of them." The Varn nodded. "That is why you're here, to rebuild the Alliance." Lena didn't answer at first. She stared at the wreckage outside ships, like the grim Vector, broken, hollowed, left behind. "Why me?" she finally asked. "Because your world forgot." "But you didn't," the Varn said. "Because you heard the call." And so it began. Lena was taken deeper into the Ark of Ashiza living station, powered by something not fully understood. Its halls were filled with survivors of many wars, not just soldiers. Scientists, refugees, engineers, those who still remembered what Earth had forgotten. She met a Sirf code hacker who had once cracked an ancient silence infection and paid for it with half his mind. A burned warrior named Cora who had lost her planet to a whisper that killed without touch. A child who had never spoken a word, but whose drawings revealed dark shapes no one else could see. They were all there for one reason. The silence was not done. It left pieces behind, shards of absence, places where sound never returned, minds left hollow. And more importantly, it had learned the next time it returned, it wouldn't just erase. It would rebuild from the inside. Lena's mission was clear. Rebuild the old networks, send warnings, recover lost tech, find the remaining Echo units scattered across old battlegrounds. But there was one problem. Earth wouldn't believe her. High Command had already closed the case. To them, the silence was gone. Sealed. Lena Reg was dead. And the world had moved on, so she wouldn't go to Earth. She would go to its enemies. The Ark helped her locate the surviving remnants of those Earth had betrayed. Alien empires and scattered fleets. Survivors of worlds once allied with humanity, now bitter and hidden. The first was the Zarek Hive. Once Earth's fiercest alliant, now its fiercest hater, the Zarek had lost a dozen worlds during the silences. First outbreak. When Earth sealed off the war and abandoned the region, the Zarek swore never to trust humans again. But Lena went anyway. She arrived in a damaged courier ship, under fake IDs surrounded by Varn emissaries. When the Zarek soldiers boarded her vessel, she didn't run. She walked out and handed them the Varelian signal. The same one she'd heard weeks ago, the same call that had started it all. "You've seen this before," she told them. "You've lost people too? I'm not asking for peace. I'm asking for war. It's the right one. It's the Zarek Queen, a towering insectoid with glowing scars, watched her for hours. Then she said, 'One chance? Bring us proof.'"
Oh.
So Lena gave them something better. She gave them a Black Echo unit. From that moment, the Alliance began to reform, not officially, not publicly. But deep in the ashes of broken systems, secret meetings were held. Maps were shared. Tech was traded. Plans were drawn. The silence would return. But this time, so would the fire. And in the center of it all, Lena Rewants an Earth officer. Now a ghost carried the weight of a broken world's sins on her shoulders. She had no rank, no orders. Only one code burned into her heart. Deathworlders don't run. We don't forget and we don't leave others behind. War hadn't begun yet, but Lena could hear it coming. In the echoes. The skies above the Zarek frontier shimmered with red fire. Warships hung in orbit like angry gods, engines pulsing, weapons charged. But they weren't fighting each other. Not anymore. They were waiting for something worse. In the darkness. Between the stars, silence was stirring again. Lena Rez stood on the bridge of an old battle cruiser named Iron Veil. A Zarek destroyer, now part of a new, fragile alliance. Around her were beings from 6 different species that had fought Earth, others that still hated it. But all had heard the truth. The silence wasn't gone. It only retreated, watching, learning. Now it was returning, not just through breaches, but through minds. "They're not attacking yet," said Cora, the scarred warrior from the Sereth Reach. "They're waiting for us to speak, to remember." That's how it spreads through thought, not touch. That's why we have to strike first. The problem was simple and terrifying. The original breach on Earth's moon had closed but left behind echoes, fragments, weak spots in space and thought where the silence could reform. It wasn't one thing anymore, it had scattered itself. Learning from the last war, Lena's recovered data from the Ark of Ashes showed 7 active echoes across known space, each one growing, and now one had opened beneath, like a peaceful mining colony called Delmora 7, located in an isolated star system. Once shared by Earth and the Varn, 3 weeks ago, contact was lost. Ships sent in never returned. Those who listened too closely to the coms began to forget why they came. Some just vanished. So the new alliance moved fast. 3 fleets were dispatched. The Zarek led from orbit, the Varn sent mine-shielded. Engineers and Lena led the drop team, a combined force of humans, insectoid warriors, and psychic techs trained to resist the pull of the silence. Their mission: enter the breach zone. Locate the new source and use the rebuilt echo core to shut it down. As they landed on the colony, Lena felt the air shift. It wasn't cold. It wasn't hot. It was still. Still buildings stood untouched. Ships sat quietly on landing pads, their lights still blinking, doors still open. But no people, no bodies. Just silence. "This is the same feeling as Varelia," Lena said quietly. "Everything's waiting." The tech spread out, scanning the structures. One by one, they discovered strange anomalies, rooms with walls. That shouldn't be there. Doors that opened to empty space, windows that reflected things that weren't real. Azaric scout stepped into a hallway and disappeared. No trace, no signal. It's only his voice remained, going from every speaker in the colony. I hear myself, but I didn't say that. Then the dream started. Soldiers reported visions, memories, places they'd never been, mothers calling their names, lost lovers, a child's voice whispering secrets they never knew they'd forgotten. One human collapsed, screaming, trying to tear off her helmet as if to let something out not in. Lena activated her neural jammer. The device buzzed in her skull, forcing her thoughts back into focus. "This is the Echoes field," said the Varn engineer beside her. "It's not just in space, it's in us." At the colony's core, they found it. A tear in the ground. A black wound pulsing with light that wasn't light. The breach, smaller than the one on the moon, but growing. Cora stared into it and whispered it speaking. Lena snapped, "Don't listen. Lock in the Echo core." They planted the device, a new generation version of the Black Echo Pulse. It was built from recovered Earth tech, modified by the Varn and the Droken. Smaller, faster, but still dangerous. The pulse had to be timed perfectly, or it would destroy not just the breach, but everyone around it. As the countdown began, the sky changed. Above them, reality twisted. Clouds turned black. But stars blinked in and out. And from the tier, they came. Not ships, not people, voids, holes in space, like broken glass, pouring out silence. They moved like smoke, but burned like fire. Soldiers opened fire, but their weapons passed through empty air. "This is it," Lena shouted. "Hold the zone." Ground teams spread out in a ring around the breach. The psychic techs activated. Mental dampeners. The Varn formed a shield wall of light. Lena drew her plasma rifle but didn't fire. Not yet. Her job was to protect the core. Then she heard her name. Lena. It was her sister's voice. The one who had died years ago. She turned, heart racing. There, standing in the doorway of a ruined house, was her sister alive, smiling. Double quotes come. "With me," the voice said. "It's better where I am. No fear. No pain. No war." Lena's hands trembled. But then she heard another voice, Juno Voss. "Not real, just memory. Don't trust the silence. It lies in familiar voices." She closed her eyes and fired. The image burned away. She ran to the core, just as the breach began to scream. Not with sound, with thought. It poured into the minds of everyone nearby. 1,000 voices, 1,000 memories. All at once, Lena slammed her hand on the trigger. The echo pulse fired. A soundless shockwave exploded outward pure force, cutting through time and mind. The voids shattered. The breach shrank. The illusions died, and the silence screamed one. Last time, before it fell quiet, when the dust cleared, the colony was still, dead still, but clean. The breach was gone. They'd won. This time, back aboard Iron Veil. The Zarek Queen called it a success. But Lena didn't smile. "This was just one," she said. "There are 6 more." Cora looked at her. "We'll burn them all." Lena nodded. "And when we're done, we take it to the source. Wherever the silence is hiding now, we go there and we end it." Because war had returned, not between nations, not between species, but between reality and the void. And the Deathworlders were leading the charge. The war against the silence was no longer secret. The battle at Delmora 7 had left. An unmistakable mark shockwaves felt across nearby systems, dead colonies blinking back to life as the breach closed. And thousands of minds freed from invisible chains. Rumors spread. Something worse than war had returned. Something that could unmake memory itself. Earth could not ignore it any longer. And so, for the first time in nearly 100 years, a Deathworlder Lena Rai was called back home. But she didn't return as a hero. She returned as a ghost. Her official record still listed her as Kaya Lunar Event. High Command was stunned when she walked into the orbital defense station wearing Zerek armor, carrying a black Echo core on her back and flanked by a silent Droken sentinel and a Varn ambassador. The guards didn't know whether to salute or shoot in the Earth United Council chambers. Tension cracked the air. The room was filled with politicians, generals, and scientists all staring at her like a bad memory they had tried to bury. "You were declared dead," one of them said flatly. "Got better," Lena replied. "And now, I'm here to tell you something you won't want to hear." The room waited. She stepped forward, dropped the black Echo core onto the table with a heavy thud, and spoke loud and clear. "The silence is back. And this time, it's aiming for Earth." Murmurs erupted across the room, but Lena didn't stop. There are 6 breach echoes still active in this galaxy. One is close to close. It's feeding off transmissions from Earth's old Deparchive satellites. It's the ones we sent to monitor space. Turns out, they're doing more than listening. They're remembering. And the silence is listening. Back. The Council's lead general, a gray-haired war veteran named Eamon Reyes, narrowed his eyes. "Why come back now? Why not destroy the echoes and stay hidden with your ... new friends? Because the next breach isn't in the stars." Lena said, "It's in your sky." She activated the hologram stored in the core. A map appeared, showing Earth, its orbit, and dozens of long-dormant surveillance satellites, all of them blinking in perfect unison. Too perfect. It wasn't just a pattern, it was a song. Signal made of Earth's own data, looping, building. "Waiting for activation, they're forming a harmonic gate," Lena explained. "One of your old black Echo test systems called Silent Net was never shut down. It just drifted into low Earth orbit and began running on autopilot. But the silence found it. Now it's using it to breach back in." One scientist stood, pale. "That would explain the frequency anomalies in the Arctic Array," another voice chimed in. "And the hallucinations reported by Mars-based personnel." Reyes shook his head. "Even if that's true, we can't just blast orbiting satellites. Some of them are still tied into defense and navigation systems." "Then disconnect them," Lena snapped. "Or we won't have a planet left to navigate." Reyes stared at her. "You're asking us to trust someone who vanished? Who walks with aliens Earth barely recognizes? You wear their armor, speak their language. What makes you think you still speak for Earth?" Lena's voice dropped to a whisper. "Because I remember what Earth forgot." And that's what the silence feeds on. There was silence in the room, ironic, heavy, and tense. Then the Varn ambassador stepped forward, placing a glowing crystal on the table. "This is a memory lock from the Ark of Ashes," he said. "It contains the recorded minds of over 100 survivors of silence breaches. It proves everything she says." Reyes looked at the others, then finally nodded. "You get one shot." Within the hour, Earth Defense Command launched Operation Break the Net, a joint strike led by Lena and a hybrid team of Earth and Zerek engineers. The mission: board the Silent Net satellites, shut them down manually, purge the breach signal before it activated fully. But as the team approached in stealth cruisers, something went wrong. The satellites moved, not just drifted, but acted. Like they knew, they reoriented, turned toward Earth, and began sinking a deep pulse across the atmosphere. Lights flickered on the surface. A hum filled the oceans. Migratory birds lost their sense of direction. Human minds started forgetting recent conversations. Some people couldn't remember their own names. The breach had already begun. "Abort stealth," Lena shouted. "Go loud." Fighters launched. EMPs fired. Explosions lit the sky above Earth. One by one, the satellites were hit, but not all could be destroyed. Some had already fused with the breach signal, and they exploded. They didn't leave behind metal. They left behind shadows. Black figures poured out into space, impossible shapes that didn't cast reflections, didn't make sound, didn't exist in full form. They weren't machines. They weren't ghosts. They were pieces of the silence. The team fought hard. Human pilots, Zarek plasma squads, Varn frequency jammers. Each second mattered. Lena led the final squad directly to the main Silent Net control satellite NO1, the original. She boarded it alone. Inside, she found a control room frozen in time. Screens blinked. Lights flickered. But the sound was everywhere. Not noise, but thought. Whispers of memories, her father's voice, her sister's laugh. Commander Juno's last words. "You came back," the silence said, inside. Her head, "You never left," she replied. The satellite's core pulsed. The breach was almost fully open. Lena reached into her pack and pulled out the last thing Juno Voss had ever given her, a detonation chip, keyed to black echo frequencies. She jammed it into the main console and set the countdown. 60 seconds. The shadows screamed, circling around her, trying to pull her thoughts apart. She felt herself slipping, memories flickering. She was a child, then a soldier, then nothing. But she held on because Deathworlders don't forget at 0. The pulse fired one final black echo burst that shattered the satellite, the breach, the shadow fleet above Earth. On the surface, the skies cleared, the hum vanished. And for the first time in days, the world felt still safe. Lena awoke days later, orbiting Earth in a medical bay. Her first view was the blue marble of home. Reyes visited her quietly, standing at the foot of her bed. "You saved us." She nodded weakly. "Not alone." He sighed. "The council's voting to declassify the silence. To tell the truth," she whispered, "because it's not over." Reyes paused. "How many more?" Lena stared at Earth. 5, maybe less. Each breach stronger than the last. Each one smarter. If we wait, it wins. "So what do we do?" "Why, what?" She smiled faintly. "We fight. Not with silence, but with memory. Because now, Earth knew. And this time, it would not forget." The last breach had opened. Not in deep space. Not in a forgotten colony. But in the dreams of Earth's people. Across the globe, humans began waking up with blank faces. Repeating strange phrases, drawing symbols they'd never seen before. Children wept without knowing why. Scientists stared at screens they no longer understood. Whole cities fell silent, not from fear, but from something deeper. They were forgetting themselves. And somewhere behind the curtain of thought, the silence was watching. Lena Rej stood at the center of Earth's new war room deep beneath. The ice of Antarctica, in a base once built to hide from nuclear war, now reactivated for a threat no weapon could fully destroy. Around her stood the last United War Council, Earth generals, Zarek queens, Varn memory weavers, and Droken soldiers still burned by past breaches. A holographic map hovered above them, showing the planet covered in points of distortion, echo. Fractures, zones where memory, reality, and time began to fall apart. "The silence has reached its final stage," Lena said, her voice quiet but steady. "It no longer needs breaches in space. It's already inside us. It moves through thought, and we're the last firewall." Reyes, now promoted to Supreme Commander, asked the question no one wanted to voice. "Can we win?" Lena looked him straight in the eyes, not by force. Not with bombs, only with memory. The Varn stepped forward and placed a strange device. On the table, a glowing crown of crystal and light. "This is the Echo Helm," the ambassador said. "Built from fragments of black echo, it can reach the center of the silence. But only if worn by a mind strong enough to remember what was erased." Lena already knew what that meant. It had to be her. She was the first to hear the call. She would be the last to answer it. The helm was fused to her neural core. When it activated, she collapsed. Her eyes flickered white. Her pulse slowed. But her consciousness left her body and entered the breach. Not a place. A battlefield of thought. She stood inside a vast, shifting dreamscape, skies made of old radio signals, oceans made of spoken language, mountains built from lost childhood memories. The silence was there all around her. It's not one thing, but many pieces of everyone it had consumed. It spoke in voices she knew. "You are already part of us. You've always been." Lena walked forward, every step pulling pieces of herself apart. Her worst memories flooded back, failures, betrayals, pain. But she didn't run. She held them, owned them. "Remember everything," she whispered. The landscape cracked. The silence screamed, and she saw it. The core. Not a machine. Not a monster. A mirror. It showed her the moment it was born, Earth's first war broadcast, pulsing through space, carrying pain, fear, and hate. The silence had been an echo of that moment, amplified by machines, shaped by war. Earth hadn't just created it. It was Earth. Lena dropped to her knees. "We made you," she said, "but we can unmake you." From her chest, the echo core began to glow. She activated the final pulse, not to destroy, but to overwrite. To flood the silence with something it couldn't consume. Hope, unity, memory of love. Every laugh she ever heard. Every hand she ever held. Every voice that ever pulled her from the edge. They surged into the breach, a blinding light of memory. Around the world, people began to wake. Names returned. Faces were remembered. Forgotten dreams snapped back into place. And the silence began to fade. Not with a scream, but with a whisper. "Thank you." Lena's body jolted awake. She gasped for air, eyes burning with light. She was alive, and it was gone. Forever. The war was over. Earth rebuilt slowly, but something had changed. People remembered not just the silence, but the way it spread through disconnection, fear, and forgotten truths. So they built schools to teach the breach wars. They restored old alliances. They spoke names that had been buried too long. A statue of Lena Reg was raised outside the UN Sky Dome, her quote carved in steel. "The only thing stronger than silence is memory shared." And deep in space, the arc of ashes floated quietly, watching, waiting, not in fear, but in faith. Because now, the galaxy remembered, and it would never forget again. Asked ChatGPT.